Hi everybody, it's Candice with another season of Grow Local. Today we're going to talk a little bit about containers and growing fruits and vegetables and flowers in your containers. A lot of people think that they have to have specific containers for things, and you don't. You can go online, you can look up, or you can even read the back of your seed packet and it'll tell you how far to space your seeds away, how big they're going to get, and if you go on that, then you know, hey, I've got a plastic dish that I got from the dollar store, so it's not expensive. We drilled 3 holes in the bottom. I can fill it up with soil, and this would be perfect for growing finger carrots, lettuce, spinach, tumbler tomatoes that actually do fine in this too. This is another one of the dollar store baskets with your coir liner. These work well, but they are probably better if you're growing things in the sun. Grow your herbs in it. Put in oregano, put in a sage. They don't retain water as well as other containers if it's really hot out, and that's simply because of the size, you guys. But if you're growing Mediterranean style veggies or herbs rather, they don't need a whole lot, so you're not going to have to panic if the bucket dries out for a little bit. And the upside of this is you can hang it close to the house, and then you got your dinner ready as you're walking in. This is another one that you can get. It's just a big old salad bowl, chip bowl, depending on what kind of food you like to eat. Drill a hole in the bottom, and again, you can grow a whole bunch of stuff in here. Standard. And you've got wire baskets. Wire baskets, they can be lined with coir. If you don't have that, you can line it with moss. Careful where you're picking it, but I do find that tree moss works the best. It's thicker, it's more absorbent, and it's easier to work with. You could line it with burlap. Line it with an old sheet. Don't let that kind of stuff stop you. This one is kind of nasty looking, but it's one of the wire baskets, and it's plastic coated, and I love these, you guys. This guy's probably close to 15 years old, and he's still strong. Hasn't got any loose bits. The chains are still going. So in my mind, if I only have to pay one time for this, it'll last a long, long time. Well worth the money. Now, oh, hey, almost forgot the milk jug. You can cut this down, and it is really, really nice. There is, if you go online, a way of cutting the top off, filling it with soil, and you could start your seeds out in the winter time. You put the lid back on. If it's really hot, you take the lid off. If it's getting really cold, you put it back on. But the moisture gets in there, and you can start your seeds earlier. Or you can just cut off the top, and you've got another container that you can grow things in, which is really handy for carrots and lettuce. Oh, creek grown moan grunt, here we go. Here I've got some lettuce growing. And this, I'm not really sure what the kind is. It's red sales. And honest to goodness, you guys, if it looks a little sad, it's because I cheated. I took it out of the garden so I could show you how big this stuff gets, okay? But you've got a pot. You've got your soil in it. You've got 2 transplants if you want, because you don't eat a lot of lettuce. And they'll look good. You can take things like alyssum. Lettuce loves having alyssum around in the vicinity. You just tuck it in. It looks good. It smells good. And the benefit to this is it attracts the beneficial insects that like to eat aphids. So if you're getting bugs on your lettuce, if you plant the alyssum in there with it, you've probably alleviated the problem. There was a school in Burnaby, one of the high schools had a garden, and that's what they did. They had heard about this, so they had trouble with their aphids. So what they did was they grew a row of lettuce, a row of alyssum, a row of lettuce, a row of alyssum, and they just carried on. And that year they said they had the absolute best crop ever with no bugs. Now, having said to grow your veggies in baskets and containers, you can do it so it looks really pretty. You can have your red sales lettuce growing, and you can have a nice strong romaine, or you might just have all the little leaf lettuces going. But ultimately, you guys, you're growing it to eat. And once you start whacking it back, it's not going to look so pretty anymore. And if that's your feature, it's not going to be so attractive. However, if you have 2 pots, you plant this one up, you've got it good and growing, now it's time to eat it, you plant this one up. If you do this every 2 weeks, you will always have fresh lettuce and one waiting in the wings. So you could just hide this guy while he's growing. As soon as this guy starts to get big enough and you're going to start eating it, he goes to the background and the other pretty one comes to the front. And that way you can just keep it going. Lettuce, typically, they can call it cut and come again. You can whack it off to about 1 inch or 2 inches above the ground, and it should grow another 2 or 3 times for you. Some people have found that if they just pick the outside leaves, they get a longer harvest, so they get more bang for their buck. With this one, I'm starting to eat it, so I'm going to take some seeds and I will just plant a couple seeds. And I'm just going willy-nilly here. You'd probably be a little smarter, and because you don't need 6 seeds in here because I've only got 2 plants. That's all you need. Or if you have found your lettuce is bolted and it's gone to flower, they get like little dandelion heads, and these things get all fluffy, just like a dandelion head. I'll see if I can find one that looks good. But they'll look like this. The flowers go just like little dandelion heads. And then you're going to take it and you just pull the fluff off and you can dump all the seeds into your hand. And there I've started my next batch. So that I find works really, really well. If you wanted to, while you're waiting for your lettuce to grow, you could always plant radishes in there. These are deep enough. You could do the fingerling carrots in there as well. Another combination that looks really, really pretty is your impatiens, and grow all your parsley behind it, or your cilantro. It makes another edible and ornamental. And, ooh, here's one of the little ones. This one I have growing underneath the apple tree, actually. And it's a strawberry plant. And I got my strawberries coming out. Well, what goes good with strawberries? Mint. And this is the chocolate mint in a container because it will just go rampant and go everywhere. I've got a lady that does knitting and beading with me, and she loves the chocolate mint dried and in a tea. She says it's her absolute favorite. But this gives you nice white flowers, it gives you the lovely red berries, you've got the mint, and if you wanted more color, pop in an alyssum, pop in a petunia, pop in whatever you want. You're probably going to feed your soil anyway, so no problems. And what else can I show you? I was going to do this. You can do a cucumber. These love to be trellised, they love to climb, or you can just leave it drape. If it's on the front, at your front door or your back door, and it's going to just go down the stairs, feel free, let it tumble. Or you can put a stick or a trellis of some sort in behind it, a couple of Swiss chard, because these are really, really pretty. And I think these are the rainbow Swiss chard. You can get ones that are plain red, you can get ones that are pink and orangey red. So I probably have one of each. This looks like the ruby. And one of the other things about growing things in containers, you're going to be able to water them and feed them on demand. So if they don't look like they're getting quite as healthy as you want, just give them some food. Organic, we love to say, is the best, but use what you can afford, use what you have, and don't sweat the small stuff, you guys. And then for pretties, I'm putting in some of these little calibrachoa, and they will tumble and they will be bright, and they'll add a lot of color. And if anybody's interested in the colors, this one is the double dark red, Calibracoa Celebration. And these ones are the Mini Famous Neo Double Orange-tastic. How's that for a name? So there, easy peasy. You can feast on Swiss chard for a long time. Your cukes will grow up or they'll tumble down and they'll add lots of flavor, and you'll enjoy them when they're ready. And now I'll clear this up and I'm going to show you one last messy one. I can make such a mess so fast, but I'm usually in my garden, so then I just whiff it on the floor and don't have to worry about it. Okay, I started this one, you guys, but this is your wire basket. And these are just the plain wire baskets, not the plastic coated. And what you do is you get your moss. And if it's not wet, wet it, just because it's easier to work with, and it holds the moisture really nicely. Here I put a layer of moss in the bottom. You want it to be about 2 inches thick when you're putting it in there. The whole reason is to hold the soil in place, but it also acts as an insulator so that your baskets don't dry out so fast. The wires on the side are very, very malleable, so you can just pull it up if you need to get the root out. So here I have a nasturtium. And I just tuck it under the wire. Figure out which way the plant is most comfortable laying. It's growing one way out of the pot. You don't want to force it into a different kind of a routine. And then I just put the wire back to where it was. And I have done a nasturtium, a lemon thyme, another nasturtium, and a golden oregano. And I just did those for the color. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the moss and I'm going to snug it in. Nothing magical about it, you guys, but it is lovely. There we go. And then I will put a bunch of soil in the center, and I did grab a bucket of soil and I have no idea what I did with it. There it is. And at this point, I will put in some soil. If you're going to add plant food, this would be a good time to do it. And you don't need much. If it's the feed and forget style, just maybe half a teaspoon. Oops. I guess I could have used a little more moss there. And then I am going to put in the top of this 1 tumbler tomato. And I will put the tumbler tomato towards the front. I am going to put in a pepper. This one's a jalapeno. Because in this case, the tumbler is going to go down. Hey, you guys, almost blew it. Tumbler's going over here because I haven't got any plants down here, and I know he's going to tumble over, so he's not going to cover anything. Jalapeno's going to go in the back. And then I could do, well, we'll see. This is your basil. This is typically what you will get in a 4-pack, and you would just plant 1 or 2 in your container. Just remember that they do grow up, they do get big. They'll be more this size, which is absolutely fine. And another thing, I don't know if you guys are aware, but after basil gets a certain set of leaves, it starts to flower and you can pinch it out. Here they've already pinched out the top, and where they did that, you start getting, it branches and you get 2 new sections growing. The other thing that you can do with it is you can just top it off. Take off the bottom set of leaves, stick it in a jar of water. It's going to get roots. When it gets the roots, I got another basil plant I can plant. And you can do that, especially if you find those big buckets, you can do that a bunch. And then you've spent your money on one plant and you've got a multitude of them, okay? So that was just what I call the regular basil, the sweet basil. And this one is a Thai basil. And it's going to go on this side. And I think it's going to complement the jalapeno just lovely. And if you wanted to, there is enough room because you're going to give it lots of plant food. You can put things like Nemesia in there so it gives a little extra color, or you could do something like the Calibrachoa that we did in the other ones. There is nothing to say you can't do petunias, whatever is going to float your boat, or just tuck in another basil. Entirely up to you. And then I just add some more soil. Tuck it all in there to make sure there's no air pockets. Give it a really good drink. And with this basket, you can either set it on the step. There is a saucer in the bottom of it to catch extra water. You don't need to do that. Some people love to do that. Some people don't care. If you're going to hang this up, which would kind of make sense in my world because it's a hanging basket, make sure wherever you are putting it, you have a strong chain, B, a strong hook, and wherever it is, make sure it is able to support the weight. When this gets watered, some of these baskets, depending on the size of it, can weigh anywhere from 30 to 50 pounds. Those big, huge baskets that you see can be up 60, 70 pounds, okay? So just make sure that you've got what you need in there. And it'll look kind of pretty. We've got nasturtiums, and they're going to be, these ones are going to have a yellow and pinkish kind of a flower. You've got the yellow tones from your lemon thyme, the golden oregano. If the tips on this start to get a little brown and crisped up, don't worry. Sometimes they do that in the heat. Just pinch off the top, they'll keep on going. And that, you guys, I think might just be it. I've got one more thing I may as well show you. I'm not going to do it up, but you can get really, really big wire baskets. And in this one, you could plant so much. But this one's going back to my house. I'm going to do the moss in it. This is actually an early girl bush tomato. So if you don't remember, there are two different kinds of tomatoes. One is bush, the other, one is determinate, and the other is indeterminate. A bush would be determinate. It means it grows to about a set size and it's going to give you a set amount of fruit. The indeterminate, as long as the daytime is lovely and the weather's right, it's just going to keep going and going and going. You need to support these guys. They are a vining plant. If you don't, they just hit the ground, and wherever they have all these little hairs on the stems, wherever it touches the ground, it's going to root. So if it flops over to the side, it's going to root into the ground and just carry on and take off. So that's why we use cages for the determinate types. And we use stakes and strings and weird curlicue things for doing the indeterminate. Because this is a determinate, I'm probably going to plant it down about this deep. I'm going to take off these leaves and I'm going to bury it up to there because I want a nice set of roots. I've got the roots down here. I'm going to get more roots. It's going to get more nutrients, and I'll get bigger and better and healthier fruit. And then I am going to put petunias around it and my infamous nasturtiums that I love. So these are jewel tone nasturtiums, and I'm going to have the petunias, and I'm going to have this, and I might tuck in some thyme and some oregano around. I just haven't made up my mind. And having said that I was going to put a cage in there, because of the holes, I can do that. I have a spot in the garden, and I might just plunk that there, but it's odd and it's on the side of the bed. So I will just put this in here. It'll go through the holes in the bottom of the cage into the ground, It'll support my tomato, and it'll also keep the basket where it needs to be. So you can do something like that. Easy peasy. So I say. And it will be. It should be really, really good this year. So, like I said, use what you've got, do what you can. Just remember that ultimately you are going to be using this stuff for food, so it's not going to look super, super attractive all the time. But there are tips, there are tricks. I have a potato planted in here. I started the potato way down here. I put about 2 inches of soil, I plunked the potato in there and let it start to grow. When it got tall enough, I just kept piling the soil around it. When it got tall enough, I put in a lovely purple cabbage, and then I put in some Swan River daisies, and I have some bush peas. I've got 3 on this side and 3 on this side. I did this last year, and I tell you guys, I was quite impressed. I had so much fun. When the peas were done, when it got warm, I just swapped them out. I yanked them out, and I put in bush beans. And I had this lovely cloud of purple flowers. This grew up and it had flowers. It got to about, oh, I'm going to say it still got to about that tall. And then when it died back, I still had my lovely big honkin' purple cabbage, but the flowers were at the side. And at that point, I was picking beans. And it was fun. I wouldn't get a healthy crop out of it for storing and freezing, but it kept us happy for a little bit. And it was novel. But we got a meal out of it. So now I think I'm done with the Saskatchewan goodbye, and I will say so long and see you next time. Bye.